Well, my name is Mackenzie Capito. I'm the office manager of Rock Solid Law. Before we get started, I just want to let you all know how grateful we are for you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules to spend this evening with us. We have a very informative presentation prepared for you tonight that's going to highlight how to reduce your taxes and expand your estate. You're going to be hearing from John Miller, who is the senior attorney and owner of Rock Solid Law. He is a 37-year lawyer who has owned Rock Solid for 30 of those years. He is also the special magistrate for Neptune Beach. He absolutely loves what he does for a living and has surrounded himself with a team who shares that same passion. You're also going to be hearing from Gary Thurman and Tim Mcdermott of Guardian Investment Advisors. Gary is the owner and CEO of Guardian Investment Advisors and is celebrating his 24th year in the industry. Gary is surrounded by a diverse team of industry professionals and strives to help his clients through their retirement with ease. That being said, I will let Gary introduce Tim, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Hey guys, they're working on the music, by the way, but I'm very loud, so you're going to be able to hear me. So it's pretty easy. I'm a good old boy from Chattanooga, Tennessee. If you can't hear my redneck voice, you can't hear anything. So I do a lot of screaming at football games, all right? So I like to start any presentation I do with my why. I bet everybody in this room's had a career and you had a why that you did that career, right? When I was 13 years old, I never will forget this, my mother brought myself and my two older sisters down in a little bitty house that we owned, or my mother owned, in Graysville, Tennessee. Anybody know where that's at? Dayton, Tennessee? Scopes Trial? We were in the suburbs of Dayton. It was horrible. It was a very, very poor little town. But she brought us down to tell us that her mother, my grandmother, I'm going to refer to her as Mamaw, because that's what I called her, was going to move in with us. Well, at 13 years old, I really didn't think that was a big deal. But that Saturday night, when I told my mother I was ready to go roller skating at Crystal Springs, because that's the only thing there was to do in the town of Dayton, my mother says, you can't go. So I thought I was in trouble. I wasn't in trouble. My mother didn't have the extra $2 to get me in. She even said, I don't have the gas to get you there. We lived 4.5 miles away. So was it, as a 13-year-old young man, what was my first initial reaction? What do you guys think? I was mad. I was angry because all my buddies were going to be at the skating rink and I couldn't go. So, the more I thought about it, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. But the good thing about that, and I would never, ever, ever change how I grew up, I learned how to work. That next week I had 2 lawns to mow. The next week after that I had 2 more. The next week after that I had 2 more. I think, within a few weeks I had 7, 8, 9, 10 yards I was cutting and making a couple $100 as a 13-year-old. Now I tell my wife all the time that I should have kept that business going, right? I probably would have done great with it. But it really gave me my focus 24 years ago when I got into this business. I said to myself, I want to make sure that anybody I work with is not in that position. Not in the position of my grandmother who had nothing to take care of herself with, no money. My mother who had to quit her job with 3 children to take care of her mother. And then me. I didn't want to put that burden on that child anymore. And we're not here to just talk about long-term care, I promise you that. It's a big part of what we talk about, but I like to talk about my why and why we're here tonight. Like Mackenzie said, 24 years. This November will be 25 years in the business. Our home office is located in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Gary, why are you in Jacksonville, Florida? I'm going to tell you that story real quick. My mentor is Tim, you want to turn that on? My mentor is a guy by the name of Tom Mcdermott. Tom lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. Tom had a great, successful financial planning operation, and he was tired of paying North Carolina state tax. So he took a Sharpie down 95 and came to Jacksonville, Florida. I don't blame the man. Had a great practice here for many, many years. About 3.5, 4 years ago, I think, he sold the practices. Well, this whole time he's been my mentor and taught me this business over the last 12 years. I got to meet his wonderful son, Tim Mcdermott. Rhonda and I kind of took Tim in under our wing. He was kind of like a second child to us, but he's been in the business his whole life because of his father. Tim wasn't happy working for the folks who bought out his father's business here in Jacksonville. So what did we do? Started an office in Jacksonville. So that's why I'm here. Tim's been in the business for a very, very long time. Having him on our team has elevated our company to whole new levels with his intelligence on how to work managed money. It absolutely blows me away how good he is at it. So you'll meet Tim here shortly after you hear me blab on for a few minutes, all right? What was going on this time last year? Lockdown.
Absolutely nothing.
There you go. Nothing. I have a radio show in Chattanooga, and we were on the anniversary date was our radio show when Sawgrass, that just happened here a couple weeks ago, was shut down on Friday. If you're a golfer, you remember that. The NBA shut down, the NHL shut down. The following week, the Dow dropped 3,000 points. You guys remember all this, right? Crazy 2020. But what else was crazy about 2020? It was an election year. Probably the craziest election I've ever seen. In my, I was about to call it 48 years. I'm only 27. But in my 27 years, it's the craziest election I've ever been part of. And I promise you, we're not going to talk politics. I don't talk politics. But so many things have happened in our world, in Jacksonville, Florida, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, because of COVID-19 and because of our election. So that's why we have teamed up with John Miller and his group, because we want to focus on some things that we think is coming down the line, and we call this seminar Tax Storm, because we feel that there's going to be a tremendous amount of taxes coming our way. Guys, there was a famous guy back in the day named Ben Franklin. He had a famous quote. Does anybody remember what it was? There's two guarantees in life: death and taxes. Well, we're all going to die. Promise you that. And we're all going to pay our taxes. So that's why we're here tonight. I'm going to put up our disclaimer. Can you guys read this real quick? Okay, that was great. Good job. All that says is, I'm sorry, that's so rude. If y'all want to read it, I'll put it back up. I did want to show you our team. This is Tim and his beautiful wife, Joelle, that just celebrated their 1-year anniversary. They had a COVID wedding, by the way. They got to know each other real well, right off the bat. Yeah. 1 week, yeah. This is my beautiful wife who's in the back of the room with us, and that is our baby boy right there. That is our St. Berdoodle Titan. I'm a big Tennessee Titan fan, so he's named Titan. He's probably 15 pounds bigger now, baby. I don't know, somewhere in there. Big boy. And this is our team right here. Ty's another advisor. Kim and Amber are assistants, and that's myself and Tim in the middle, and my niece Kristen, who does all of our marketing. So just want to kind of give you a glimpse of who we are and what we're all about. Here's the things we're going to talk about. Today's agenda: where we are right now and how did we get here? Where could we go from here? Could your taxes be on the way up, and how do you protect yourself? So that's the few things that we're going to talk about tonight. I do want to start with a question. And I think this is an important question for all of us to make sure we're on the same page, okay? Your taxes will be lower in retirement. True or false? I heard true, I heard false.
Well, they were going to be false, but now they're going to be true.
It really depends on, it depends on a lot of things, right? Right. Let me ask you this question. Who thinks taxes are going up? Show of hands. Okay, majority of the room. Why? Democrats. Oh, Lord, we're not talking politics.
People need money to pay for things.
We have spent
$1.9 trillion.
$4 trillion.
There you go. So what happened March 27th, 2020? March 27th, Mr. Trump passed the CARES Act. You guys remember that? $2.2 trillion. In December, we had another $900 billion passed. And then in January, President-elect Biden passed, I just heard it from over here somewhere, 1.9. Now, on top of that, what else? PPP loans, extra unemployment, inflation. Great point. Do you guys know what inflation was in 2020? 0.60. Do you know what it is as of today, 2021? 4.1. Yeah, so it really depends on your situation whether your taxes are going to be higher or not. Now, this is not a true number, but I'm going to give you a number. It's the one that we get to see. U.S. is in debt $28 trillion. Do you think it's higher than that? I promise you it is. But if we go by the 28 trillion, that's $223,000 per person in the United States. So about half of the IRS, if you guys will pull out your checkbook, write a check for $223,000, I'll submit it. I'm joking, of course, but is that not crazy? And we're spending all this, where are we getting the money?
We're just printing more.
We're just printing more. And so where are we gonna get that money back from? Yeah. Taxes, and this is why we're here with John. If your estate's not set up properly, even more taxes. Maybe some that you're not even aware of. You have a silent partner. Now let me ask you about this. What's the most popular financial vehicle plan there is? What's the most popular plan there is to save for retirement? 401ks. Right? Because when ERISA passed the law, does anybody have a pension in here?
Yes.
You need to thank God for it every day. Because they are gone. I would say on a weekly basis at our tiny little firm that we are, we're probably moving 2 or 3 lump sum pension plans per week. I love it because we get new clients and we're able to get them in a better position than they are. But companies don't want it on the books anymore. They can't afford it because interest rates are so low. But your silent partner loved 401ks. Why? So not only do you get taxed on what you put into that 401k, you get taxed on what? The growth. And then when you take it out. When do you need your money the most? When you're working or when you retire? Yeah. So we all just about a show of hands talked about how taxes are going up. So to go back to that question, are your taxes going to be lower in retirement? I don't know. I don't know. Could be as high as it was when you were paying taxes. So where are we right now? How did we get here? You guys, we just nailed it. Our government has put out so much money. And guess what? And don't throw bread at me. I do think some of the money that was given out was wonderful. I do. Small business owners. You know, I know Ron and I in the Chattanooga area, we know small businesses that they're gone. Been in the family for 70 years, couldn't keep their doors open. So those PPP loans were pretty awesome for some folks out there. The increase in unemployment, I got a little issue with it. I think it made a lot of people lazy. I think a lot of young people were making more money in unemployment than they were if they were working here at Marker 32. If I would have been 20, I don't know what I would have done. That would have been hard, but our Federal Reserve has put so much money into our system, and that's why with all these things that were passed in 2020, it's so important that you guys are here tonight. I'm going to bring Tim up because he's going to get a little more in depth with the tax situation that we're in. And then after that, Mr. John's going to come up. And I think you guys are going to be educated very well. So, hey, thank you for your attention. Mr. Tim?
Thank you, Gary.
Oh, you do not have to clap. Thank you.
Well, look, thank you guys for coming out. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth of what Gary kind of was talking about and show you a little bit more about why we are where we are and hopefully how to fix your personal situation. I cannot fix the entire United States. If I can, I wouldn't be standing here, right? This slide right here just shows you the U.S. debt clock. If you can actually go on this website anytime you want to. Go home, look it up, usdebtclock.org, and it tells you all these major crazy numbers about where our economy sits and where everything is. Gary was just talking about our national debt being at $28 trillion. This is a screenshot from January. So in just a month, we've gone up another $1 trillion in debt. That's kind of a mind-blowing situation. Has anybody ever seen those videos about how much is a trillion? How much really is a trillion? They show you a stack of $100 bills, show you a stack of what $10,000 is, $1 million, $1 billion. Well, if a $10,000 stack is like this, $1 trillion covers this entire room and then some. It's a massive amount. And we gave out just over $5.3 trillion in aid packages related to the coronavirus system itself. Does anybody know what the U.S. Budget is every single year? Take a guess. Sorry? 8 trillion? 3, that's correct. Yep. We're actually going to spend closer to 5 this year, which means we're planning on being $2.3 trillion in debt. I don't know, how many of you do a budget in your household? Do you guys plan on spending more than you're going to make every single year? No. U.S. government does. And so we have to figure out, how do we get ourselves away from being the person to help pay all that back? And that's really what this whole seminar is about, I guess. So where could we go from here? We know where taxes are right now. We know where taxes were about 4 years ago. We all think taxes are on the rise. We had a raise of hands there. Does anybody in here think taxes are going lower? Okay. So I think we're all pretty much in agreement here. Taxes from here are on their way up then. If you can buy into the stock market anytime you want to, when do you buy in? At the low, right? So if you're looking to pay your taxes, when do you want to do it? If you know when the low is, why would you not try to pay your taxes at the lowest possible point? Save yourself some money. This is what the last stimulus package looked like. We had the $1,400 checks. Unemployment's been extended all the way out to September. $15 minimum wage did not pass. However, I think it's still on the board, which indicates what for the near future? Inflation? I think we're going to see some inflation coming up. Treasury rates are already on the rise. We just talked about printing money. When you have more money going into the market, quantitative easing always causes inflation. There's 3 big key factors right there. It says we're going to see inflation, which means what? Your dollar's not going to go as far as it used to. Another thing that we need to plan for and be prepared for. Has anybody seen what the proposed tax changes are from Biden?
Yeah, 39.8.
That's right. That's right. So capital gains are going up if you make over a certain amount every single year. And the top tax bracket's going up. In fact, it's proposed that all tax brackets are going to go up. And not only is the tax bracket going to go up, the amount of money that you make will probably increase as well inside of those tax brackets. Those are 2 big things that we're going to be watching and looking for. I think Biden's big thing was you're not going to pay more taxes unless you make over $400,000 a year, which simply cannot be true. That's correct. There's already 2 things out there that are proposed. One is a step up in cost basis. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but when you pass, if you've owned a Coca-Cola since 1987 and you pass away tomorrow, not killing anybody off here, don't. But you pass away tomorrow, your children or your beneficiaries will get that step up, meaning that they don't owe the taxes on the gains that you've made from 1987 until today. That's going to go away. The estate tax is also coming way down. It used to be $11.7 million per person. It's coming down to 3.4. Thank you. A lot of numbers. So those are 2 big things that I would keep an eye out and look for. With the capital gains increasing, you're going to have a lot of larger investors who I think are going to make a second kind of call whether or not they're going to stay inside the market and pay those major capital gains. You're not going to have folks who stopped investing. Your folks who are worth $5, $6, $7 million, they're not going to just stop investing and making money, but they're not going to be willing to give away 40% in taxes. So where are they going to go? They're going to either look at some tax-free options, they're going to hold their investments and not trade them as much in the market, or they're going to go to something that's tax-deferred as much as they can, which puts you in some different situations and out of the market for the most part. So I think we'll see somewhat of a decrease in investors moving forward. It won't be dramatic, but I think you will see some of that. All of this kind of builds up. This is just saying that Trump's tax code is in place until 2025 unless it's moved by Biden, which I'm pretty sure it will be at this point. All of these things are building up, right? We've just named a dozen different things that are in effect, that are affecting where we're going in our near future and what it's going to look like for our average citizen. So what can we do to protect ourselves? We're going to look at a couple of different tax strategies. And these are really meant to put you in a place where you can get rid of some of the volatility that you see in the tax world. If you're in a situation 5 years down the road where you're not having to pay half the taxes you used to, it puts you in a better place to control where you want to be. 5 years from now, we all said taxes are on the rise, right? It's kind of a no-duh kind of question or answer. I think we all think inflation, does everybody agree with inflation heading up, right? Yes. So where do you want to be in 5 years? Do you want to be in a taxable situation? Do you want all your money in your 401ks, your IRAs, your tax-deferred situation? We probably want to start making some moves into some tax-free options. And if you start that now, it makes better sense. These are kind of the three buckets that you really have in your investments overall. You've got your income that's almost always taxable. You've got your tax-deferred status, which would be your 401ks, your IRAs, your 403bs. Your pension plans would probably fall into your income taxable unless you've rolled that out into an IRA. And then you have your income tax-free bucket. From my experience, this bucket right here is usually a lot lighter because you've been told your entire life, tax-deferred, 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 fund that 401k. And funding the 401k was great because you got free money. I mean, your company matched it, contributed to it for you. Take free money whenever you can. But now we need to start making some changes from that tax-deferred bucket and throwing it into that income tax-free bucket while we're at the low of our tax bracket, trying to pay as little as we can in the tax market. Do we all believe we should pay our fair share in taxes? Fair share being the key word, right? We just want to pay that, but we want to pay it in the fairest way that we can. We don't want to pay more than we have to. That's why the IRS code is there. We'll use it to our full extent. The first thing that we're going to do if you sit down with us is give you a free complimentary diversification of where your assets are. Going to show you what's income tax deferred, show you what's income tax free, and give you an income where your income is coming from as well. That's going to help us understand where we start and how we get to where we're going. That tax advantage of lower brackets. I hate that slide. Sorry. This is the tax brackets this year right now and where we sit. You'll see the 10%, 12, 22, 24. From 22 all the way up to 24%, there's really not a big difference between those two numbers. So if your income falls between that $80,000 and $71,000, it could make sense to step into the next tax bracket to convert a little bit more. And I'm going to show you that on our next slide. This is what 2017 looked like, and I think pretty close to where we may be going based on what we've heard from Biden's plan. Not only are the rates higher, so you went from 12 to 15, 22 to 25, 24 to 28, but the income amounts are lower. So at the 24% bracket, your top is $326,000. Over here, it's only $233,000. That's a $100,000 difference that could put you in a much higher tax bracket if you make that much. Dave and Sarah is kind of an illustration of what we would be looking at. If they moved it this year, they fall into the 22% tax bracket because they're at $170,000. The highest level right now is $170,000. If they look at doing a conversion now, we're just looking at $100,000 from their IRA to their Roth IRA. You have to put that $100,000 on top of their income, which is $170,000. That brings their total income up to $270,000, which Back here under the 2017 rules puts them all the way into the 33% bracket, where right now only puts them into the 24% bracket. So for them, it makes sense to convert as much as they can now while the taxes are a little bit lower. And these are kind of some of the things that we're looking at. They might have $1 million in their IRA, but we're just looking at moving a portion of it now and trying to do that over the next couple of years as taxes rise. Just doing it while it's a little bit lower. That really saves them about 25% in taxes, which is a big deal at the end of the day, especially when you're talking about several $100,000 up to $1 million as we rotate that over. We're just looking to convert those assets from that deferred bucket into that tax-free bucket. Yes, sir?
You say move it, and we're all lined up with that, but where do you move it from?
Where do you move it from? So it's usually in your tax-deferred accounts. Yeah, your tax-deferred accounts, your IRAs, your 401ks. Those are the accounts that when you have to pull those funds out, which RMD age is now 72, when you have to pull those out, you're going to start paying the taxes on that income that comes out. If you're lucky enough to not need that income, you're just going to pull the RMD amount, pay the income on that, and you're going to pay that over the span of your life, the rest of your life. Somebody's going to pay that tax one day, somehow, somewhere. It might not be you, but if you leave it to your beneficiaries, your kids then have to pay it. And I'm sure that as a parent, or even if you don't have kids that's going to a charity, as a parent, you want your kids to receive as much of that money as possible versus Uncle Sam, right? So we're just trying to prevent that now. Not to mention, once we get it into a tax-free bucket, depending on the plan that we go with, Roth IRAs grow tax-free, which means
The disadvantage on that, Tim, is that you're not allowed to touch it for 5 years.
that's correct. So there's more than one strategy. Roth is not always the best place to go. If you have a Roth IRA that you've started and you just haven't funded much to it, we can already roll into something like that. Something like that's already been started for the 5-year period. So that may help you out a little bit. Multiple different strategies to go to. If I went into depth there, we would be here until 10 a.m. probably. And so we don't want to be here that long. The food's great. I won't keep you here that long. So moving to that tax-free situation. So the second thing that we're going to do is give you a analysis of how we can do that conversion. That conversion can look several different ways, as we just talked about. Roth IRAs are a great option. Roth IRAs are a great option. There's also a few other plans that are out there for us. Has anybody ever heard of life insurance that's being used as a tax-free option? Life insurance is really one of the best ways to pass funds from one generation to the next. If that fits you, I don't know. That would be a conversation that we have. But if your goal is to leave some money to your children, life insurance could fit you very well. There's also an income factor to life insurance that may help do a tax-free income for you later on in life as well. Several different options to do. We'll look at those and kind of give you a plan for it. On top of that, we'd like to give you kind of a full complementary, a full plan for your retirement, really. And that is more in depth than just looking at how do we convert IRAs to Roth IRAs, or how do we get you in a tax-free status. It's definitely a part of it. And right now, I think it's a very crucial part of it and something that we should start looking at. But above and beyond that, we're looking at the estate side of things. Again, why we have John here with us. John's a phenomenal attorney. One of the things that he does really well is avoids probate. I wasn't aware of this until sitting down and talking with John a little bit about it, but a lot of attorneys don't avoid probate. They actually write your documents to set you up to go through probate. And then when it's time to go through probate, your kids go through it, they go back to the attorney and they say, now we need some help going through probate, and they get paid twice. John does a phenomenal job of avoiding it and trying to make that process as easy as possible. On our end, it might be just as simple as signing a beneficiary form. If you list out your beneficiaries and have that signed, that avoids probate right there. There's so many easy ways to avoid it. You just have to plan for it. We're looking at an income plan. What does your income really designate for you? It tells you what your lifestyle is going to be, right? You might be a farmer and live on a $7 million piece of property, but that $7 million piece of property isn't necessarily your income. He might have $70,000 worth of income. That designates what car he drives, what house he lives in, what food he buys from the grocery store. And income, if you don't know exactly where it's coming from, how it's going to get to you, and where it's getting paid out, it can be very stressful and unknowing, I guess, moving forward. We will lay out an income plan for you that shows you that. Investments and risk growth, we just talked a lot about that. We have several different investment strategies. I work with our registered investment advisory firm who has dozens of different managers there. I run a couple of myself inside of our office, and we have over 50 different certified financial analysts in our back office, and they do a phenomenal job with our strategies that they do. We can do anything from super conservative to as risky as you want to be, and anywhere in the middle. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that. That's kind of my passion and where I fall into place with things. Gary does a phenomenal job of running our company and knows the annuities, life insurance, and all of our fixed stuff very well, so I rely a lot on him for that. Last but not least, Gary's why, healthcare. Does anybody know what the biggest fear in America is right now? So I heard it. Running out of money, that's correct. Does anybody know what the second biggest fear is? It's really healthcare. How do we pay for healthcare if we get sick? So trying to combat those two fears right out of the gate is a great way to go. We have tons of long-term care options, and when I say long-term care options, we're not going for the traditional long-term care policies. We know those are expensive. We know that they may come back and raise rates on them. I have several clients who walked in the door, had long-term care policies, and they've gotten rid of them at some point because the premiums got so high, they said we need a different way to go. Where do those premiums go in a long-term care plan if you pass away and never use it? Insurance company, that's correct. You know what we call you if that happens? Lucky. Seriously, I mean, nobody wants to drive out of here tonight, right? Get in a car accident and say, yes, I get to call my insurance company. Trust me, I know. I've been on the phone with insurance companies more times than you would want to know in the last 3 weeks. But seriously, that's something that we want to do is put you in a place where you have an investment vehicle that works multiple different ways for you. We have plans that set you up to use long-term care if you need them. But if you don't need that long-term care, that money goes to your children and it goes to them tax-free. Tax-free. Love to set that up for you. The written income plan that we talked about, that's going to help us put your lifestyle together. It's going to be a very clear written out path. When you're this old, this is where the income comes from. It also includes the tax situation that's involved with that. Putting you in that tax-free situation will show a major difference in your income later on. When will they start? Where will they come from? I just covered all that for you. Question number 3, get that written income plan. Those 3 things put together for you guys are really going to be a nice illustration of here's where my weaknesses are, here's how we get out of them, and here's how we build a strong portfolio moving forward. I would love to sit and meet with all of you guys. I'll come around a little bit later and talk to you about if that makes sense for you and when it does. I'd love to meet with each and every one of you. The difference between death and taxes is death doesn't get worse every time Congress meets. Will Rogers, so. Guys, thank you very much. You've been an awesome crowd. I'm going to bring up John Miller. John Miller, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Oh, by the way, this is John and his lovely wife.
Yeah. Outkicked my coverage, I know. Some of you, maybe most of you, on your way here tonight were thinking, I'm going to go hear a cranky, old, boring lawyer amuse himself with his vocabulary to talk about death and disability. And thank goodness for the fantastic, well-deserved reputation of Marker 32. You were willing to take that risk and trade a little time. I'm going to do my very best in the next few minutes to dissuade you of most of those adjectives. But having collected my 61st birthday over the weekend, I will let you make the decision on whether that's old or not. I have 2 minor children, and my wife and I asked for my birthday to take them down to St. Petersburg to see the Van Gogh exhibit at the Salvador Dali Museum. It's amazing. Our kids loved it, trying to turn them on to a little art, right, and share that with them. My childhood was in St. Petersburg. And we went by the old neighborhood, kind of nostalgic. I like doing stuff like that. And standing there looking at that little tiny Florida house that I grew up with, I realized I moved away from there 50 years ago. Well, that'll make you stop and think for a minute, right? What have I been doing with those 50 years? The last 37 of them, I've been practicing law, and the last 30 of them, I've had my own practice, Rock Solid Law, and I created that practice for a specific reason. People ask me, you're different than the other people in law school. Why did you go to law school? And I'd say, because I want to live at the beach, which I do live at the beach, so life's pretty good on that score. But I said, look, I want to give people a little different opportunity on what your experience is with a lawyer. We deliver services in what I call beach professional. You're going to get the same or greater quality of services you might get in a big silk stocking downtown firm. But we're going to kick back and enjoy ourselves. We're going to have conversations together. Nobody's going to talk to or down to you during the process. And through the process, we're going to determine if we are the right firm to work with you. So it's kind of neat. I did all this, self-contemplation over the weekend, and then Gary comes in talking about his why and growing up poor in Tennessee. I'm a preacher's kid. I'm an honest preacher's kid, I might add. So we had what we needed and little more, right? We always had pants to go to school in, but we were told more often than not. Now, a few of you might be young enough to remember my favorite group, Three Dog Night. We passed by what used to be an Eckerd's drugstore. Right now, it's giving vaccines in that parking lot because that shopping center's gone downhill a bit. And you know how kids are. Mommy, can I have? Mommy, can I have? Mommy, can I have? That Eckerd's drugstore was the place where I said, Mommy, can I have the Three Dog Night record that has Joy to the World, Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog on it? And she said yes. And I was shocked that I actually took my very first record album home. It started a lifelong addiction. I now have probably 10,000 CDs and records, and I love music. In fact, the first time Gary and I met, Tim introduced us, we didn't shut up talking about music for the first 10 minutes because that's something that's really important to both of us. So having thought a little bit about my why is to deliver a different kind of services. I have a firm that's not about impressing you with the titles of a bunch of different trusts. My firm is specifically established to help you write the story of your heroic life based on your values and what's important to you and your family. We know how to write the words. We know how to craft the documents. There's a ton of lawyers who can sit and crank out a book of papers for you that may or may not get the job done. But with Rock Solid Law, we individually craft every plan so it reflects who you are and what you're about and protects your goals and what you care about. To talk about death and disability being a part of an estate plan, to me, is like looking at that Van Gogh painting and wondering, how much did he pay for the paint and where did he get them? Misses the point entirely, right? However, during the show, there was a quote from him the other day that blew my mind. He said, I hope someday someone will value my paintings more than the cost of the paint I put in them. You know, during his life, he sold one painting, exactly one. He died penniless, and now, of course, his art is off the charts around the world whenever any piece goes into auction. So what does that mean? Sometimes our values as a culture, as a civilization, are a little wonky, right? So what we like to do is have what's called a discovery meeting. And that's to sit down and talk about what's important to you. I have what's important to me. I already sort of referenced them a little bit, right? But that's my value. I don't impose what I care about on you. I notice sitting in the back of the room, and I'll be very remiss not to introduce to you three members of my team. I think you met Mackenzie coming in. And Kayla was handing out the questionnaires and flyers. She's back there. And I am so darn excited, mostly because my workload's about to decrease a little bit, to the first time in public introduce and announce that Kathy Espinoza is coming on with our firm as senior associate attorney. And Kathy, thank you for coming tonight. She doesn't even start till April 12th. But I said, come to Marker 32 and listen to me talk, and I'll buy you dinner. So she sort of got the same deal you guys did. Rock Solid Law helps Florida families plan and preserve their wealth and their family legacy. Tim alluded to it, and avoid costly probate by preparing for the future of your loved ones. All right? Your estate plan cares for you during your lifetime, and then it carries over till after you're here. And through your estate plan, you can make decisions on how those people are going to be treated later. And if you don't spend that last dime skidding into eternity, we'll figure out when and how you choose to share that with who you want to share it with. I want you to think, during the few minutes I'm going to be up here, if it would be important for you to preserve what you have earned and to pass it to whomever you want or whatever you want, whenever you want. Because estate planning is what can allow you to do that. 8 out of 10 of our fellow Americans go through the probate process. Probate's a word we've both thrown around a little bit. That's a lawsuit, folks. That means that you are having your estate figured out by a judge. Yes, there's a will to give instructions, but let me tell you what probate is. Probate's expensive, it's time consuming, it's never less than 6 months, and it's often 1 to 3 years, and often your heirs don't get anything until it's done. It subjects you to creditors, including fake creditors, and even though court documents are sealed, it's fairly public. And I don't have a whole lot of clients that come in and say, I want to hang my laundry out on the line for everybody to see after I'm gone. The worst part of all, it's where families come to fight. I've seen it over the years for incredibly small amounts of money where people lose their whole relationship, burn down their family tree, and they're never going to talk to each other again. All things considered, the shrinkage of an estate in America is 30 to 60% on average. Think about that. Your heirs are only going to get 40%, 70% on the dollar. It happens 80% of the time. 80%. You don't need to do that. Tim talked about paying taxes. My family tree, I'm a American mutt. We've been here since the Revolutionary War. I've got a Revolutionary War general in my family tree. So we are Americans. We're soldiers and we're preachers and a few black sheep lawyers that happen to jump outside the lines, right? And I believe in carrying our fair share of the burden. I have a particularly blessed life. I want to pay the mandatory taxes that are required of me in our country to be a part of being an American. But I don't want to pay any voluntary taxes, taxes I don't have to pay, and I don't want my clients to pay any voluntary taxes either. There are all sorts of strategies for avoiding that both in your lifetime and for your heirs, and we want to help you look at those. I call probate a voluntary tax you impose upon yourself, and Tim's exactly right. There are a whole lot of lawyers that have good reputations who are intentionally putting their clients through that process because they're going to get paid a lot of money to do it and take it from their heirs. And I don't approve of that. I'll stand right up and say I'm an anti-probate device unless it's for the right person. If it fits a family to go through probate, and that's usually folks that don't have a lot of assets, and it won't cost their heirs a lot, or they don't really have the money to do a plan now, I'll advise them of that and make them choose. But I'll tell you, I had a lady the other day, adorable, older, retired, former teacher. I very much respect her. The amount that she had in her estate probably would have been, I said, you know, really, you might just want to do a will. Let your kids pay for that cost when the time comes. And she said, no, I want to make it as easy as possible on my 2 kids. So I want to spend the money now so they don't have to go through that later. And I said, I want you to think about it because that's entirely your choice. And that's the way she decided to go. Her value, not mine, right? So, the planning can be about your legacy. This is one of the most important things I like to talk to folks about. How do you want to be remembered? Sat with a client today. He doesn't have any people. He's elderly. He's done real well. All of it's going to charity. And it's such a joy to help him do that, because I happen to know the CEO of one of the charities it's going to, and if I was allowed to talk about it, you'd be glad they were getting some money too, because they're doing great stuff right here in Jacksonville. But let me tell you about Tarnished Legacy. Tarnished Legacy is where they all show up at your funeral and fight about who's getting what. And I do 2 other areas of law. I close real estate and I represent small businesses. And I'm proud to say almost none of my small businesses went out of business last year. I'd like to think there's a correlation between business owners who are smart enough to have a quality business lawyer on their team and those that survived. I can't prove it, but I'm just going to put that out there. I'll give a real estate talk, and I'm ready to go to the bar with everybody else that's been there too, and somebody comes up and says, let me tell you what Uncle Bob did at my dad's funeral, right? If you bring up her dad, all she thinks about is how she got ripped off by her uncle. So Dad's legacy is tarnished forever by that. And folks, I've done this 37 years. I hear that story more often than not. Made me sit around Christmas looking at my own brother and sisters and wondering which one of them's going to be the one. It's not happening. Mom has a trust. It can be about your heirs. It can be about your kids, your grandkids, anybody else you care about. I've found over the years, most everybody cares about something. If we sit and talk, we can usually bring it out. I got one client that's taken him 2 or 3 years. He still hadn't figured it out. $10,000 to that little old Baptist church in the mountains of Tennessee is all he's come up with so far, and he's got millions. So hopefully we're going to figure out what he cares about. An estate plan should be, again, about celebrating your legacy. It should be about writing the penultimate chapters of your life, and I want to be your co-author. I know how to write it. You have to tell me what to write in there. We at Rock Solid Law call it showing your love to those you treasure. And again, I'm going to hit back on the tax issues about keeping as much as possible legally of what you have. That's where the tax planning comes in. Why is it important? More stats. Statistics show American families go from rags to riches and back to rags in 3 or maybe 4 generations. And I remember always growing up hearing, what's the most worthless guy on earth? It's the 3rd generation wealthy kid. You all knew one. Some of them turn out okay, but most of them don't. And they blow the family fortune and put the family right back where they were before Grandpa made the money. We have an array of tools, devices, and strategies to implement this. I really don't want to go into that because I'm between you and a fantastic dinner. 2 days ago, I woke up, looked out, and there was the most glorious sunrise you could imagine. This morning I got up and looked out, I couldn't even see the ocean through the fog, right? I make that point because life changes every day. And one thing I've found, being an estate planning lawyer, is that people love to procrastinate. And people put off doing their plan, often for 20, 25, 30 years. So I want to tell you about one. I like to tell stories, but I'm only going to tell one tonight. I had a client, Harvard-educated physicist, came to America as an immigrant, penniless, served in World War II honorably, and used the GI Bill to gain his education. Became a physicist, worked for a Fortune 500 company, did really, really well. I got to do a real estate deal for him along the way, and a little later he called and he said, Mr. Miller, I'd like to have a power of attorney, a health care cert. He rattled off all the documents, but not a will or a trust. And I said, well, you really need to have at least a will. I don't want a will. I'll be back in 3 years. I hadn't decided. So this guy didn't have any kids, and he had a sister who'd predeceased him who had 2 daughters. And they were from Central Casting in Hollywood. One of them was the good witch, and one of them was the bad witch, straight out of Oz, I'm telling you. And the good witch had a little boy. And that grandnephew was the apple of this client's eye. He loved him, and he was giving him things like his coin collection slowly over time. He's a little boy. I stood on the table, I hollered at him, and he would not have anything to do with doing a will. So I said, okay, you're the client, your choice. And he went away. He was in good health, apparently, and 6 months later, I get a phone call. Remember, he's Harvard educated, very former. Mr. Miller always, never John. I'm John to most of my clients. He says, I'm dying and I ain't got no will. I said, what happened? He'd been attacked by a very aggressive form of cancer. I said, all right, I'll drop everything else. I'm going to get this thing done for you. And he finally decided he was going to take the bad witch out. Give everything to the mom of the little boy that he loved so. So I dropped everything and I drafted the will and I called him back and I said, I've got it ready. He says, I'm not feeling too good. Let's deal with it tomorrow. Called him the next day. He said, you know what? They're taking me over to hospice today, but I'll be fine. I don't want to deal with it today. Come see me first thing tomorrow morning. He's a client. Next morning, I got up, drove straight from my house to the hospice over by Mayo, and he had slipped into a coma and never came out. And that was the bad witch's best day ever, because she sued her sister for 5 years until her sister bought the coin collection so she could give it to the little boy. She actually cleaned out the bank account because they see there was no will and they had the equal right to be the personal representative. So you never know which day the sun's going to be up and which day is going to be foggy, which day's on time and which day's too late. That haunts me, guys. I can see his eyes now. I'm older now. I'd probably get him to sign something because you could always change it. You can always change it. In case you hadn't noticed, we got a pandemic going on. You know, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. The only thing I'm going to ask is if you haven't done a plan, if not with us, go see somebody, get something in place. I know you love somebody or something, and get it done. Like I said, I can't make you care for any particular thing, but almost everybody I meet cares for something. If you know what you care about, we can help put it down in a legal document so things will work out the way you want it to when you're no longer able to control it, and we can help you during your lifetime be protected as well. So, thank you for listening. I know you're about to have a great meal. I love this restaurant. Gary set it up, but I went, yeah, really? Marker 32? I get to eat there 2 days this week? Rock on. Forgive me a little bit of your time tonight. If you will see Mackenzie before we leave this evening and make an appointment, I'm going to make it complimentary. That's a $425 gift to you. If you're not sure and you need to think about it, if you'll call her before the end of the month, I think that's about a week from now. Yeah? Mackenzie keeps me in line in case you can't tell. I'll make it half off. I think that's a fair offer. And all this is just to sit down and talk so you get a little bit of education and understand what your future might be about. One of my favorite sayings, and I don't know who said it, is that the quality of our life is as a result of the decisions we make at crossroads. We all face crossroads periodically. When you make those decisions, do you want to make them informed or uninformed? I would love to have the opportunity to inform you on what your options for your future might be. Really appreciate y'all. I've been at the beach for 30 years. I'm not going anywhere. Hope to see some of you soon. Thanks.
So John did lie. I'm between you and the food.
It's the only lie I told.
But it's only 10 minutes, I promise. Something I wanted to point out, though, what he just offered with that free consultation, that's pretty awesome. You know, by the end of the month, half off is pretty awesome. And that's the same thing Tim's offering tonight, is, you know, come in, have a conversation. You know, I tell everybody, you know, we might not make a great fit. I mean, that's just life, right? But let's at least sit down and have a conversation, because it's going to cost you nothing, and see if we can help you out. So I want to talk to you about one more topic. What is lazy money? Wow, I like you a lot. You're a knuckle. Are you knuckling or elbowing? What are you doing here? So I'm just going to write bank. So we got what? CDs, money market accounts, savings. Why do we keep money at the bank? What's that?
For emergencies.
For emergencies, rainy days. Give me something. Security. Safe. Liquid. Okay, I like those things. I think everybody should have some money at the bank because you got to have that emergency account. You know, Tim and I are real sticklers about, you know, if you don't have at least 6 months worth of monthly expenses putting that back in the bank, we're not going to be able to work together. I mean, that's a big deal. You got to have that emergency account, right? But what if there was ways to work with that lazy money? Tim, I'm just going to tear these off this time. Just flipping them over. So we said one of the main things we loved about the bank is it's safe, right? So we're not worried about the market. Another thing we said was that it's liquid. Give me 3 or 4 more things about the bank money. Positive.
It ain't making.
Okay.
It ain't making any money on it.
Growth.
It's negative.
What's the average growth in a 3-year CD right now?
0.
Is that the average? So let's say 0.7 in a 3-year. Wait a minute. On that 0.7, you got to pay what?
You gotta pay.
Taxes on it.
So back it out.
What if you could do something for 3 years and be guaranteed 2.25% tax deferred? 2.25%, Gary, that's nothing. I mean, if I talk about what we did in our market accounts last year, but still, if you're a CD person, what about a 5-year CD? I looked today in Jacksonville, average.
What is it?
It's actually 0.85.
Oh,
That's
boy.
average.
So big.
What if you could do something for 5 years? I'm going to put 5 up here for 2.85% tax deferred guaranteed. Kind of interesting, right? Now, when I say tax deferred, I mean that means that stacks on top of each other 3, 4, or 5 years. Not bad. That's an option to get this right here. It's safe. It's going to grow a little bit. It's not liquid, though. 10% is liquid. That's it. But, can I throw a but at you guys? What's the number 2 concern in America right now? Healthcare. Do you know the inflation rate on healthcare right now? The last 15 years, it's averaged 3.2%. Right now, they're pushing for 7% increase in healthcare. Why? What we talked about earlier, all this money, COVID, you know what I mean? Healthcare is going to get crazy, guys. What's the average cost in an assisted living home in Jacksonville, Florida? Assisted living.
Probably $5 grand.
$5,000 average. What about full skill care?
Probably 8.
10. 7,500, 10 grand. What if you could do something like this? Come on. What if you could create safety, liquidity, growth, and get long-term care if you need it? I'm not talking about long-term care insurance. I'm throwing stuff at you. I got to get my notes out. I just did this last week in Chattanooga. 65-year-old female. She had 400 grand in lazy money. 400 grand sitting in the bank.
Yep, that's fine.
She had no long-term care. Should she be worried about long-term care a little bit at 65? Maybe.
Yeah, man.
We took $200,000 and put into this program that I'm talking about. Here's what's amazing. Day 1, she got $425,000 in life insurance. She passes away a week later. She gave us $200. What is she giving her family? $425, an extra $225. How is life insurance paid? Tax-free. So she just increased her legacy $225,000 tax-free right off the bat. That's cool, right? Here's the best part. Again, day one, she got $387,000 for long-term care. If she needs it. If she never uses it, what happens? The family gets $425 versus $200. The average growth on these programs is anywhere from 5 to 7%. And get this, listen to me, it's 100% liquid. So if you put the money in there, you're in there 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you're just like, Gary, I'm healthy, I'm not going to need this anymore, I want my money back. Okay. Lazy money is a big topic for me because I see a lot of lazy money out there in our bank system right now. So I just wanted to throw this up at you guys really quick to show you that Tim and I have alternatives. Yes, we do a great job with our managed money. We do a great job with annuities. We do a great job with life insurance. We have all those things covered. Medicare is on your table. If you got questions about your Medicare planning, my guy's right here, Tanner. He's phenomenal at Medicare, knows more about Medicare than anybody I've ever met. He's really, really good. This is the kind of stuff that people are looking for right now. They're looking for answers. Healthcare is a concern, and we've got the solution for you. Okay? Does not cost you anything. You're making one lump sum payment of $200,000 in her situation. Are there costs involved in the product? Of course there is. Life insurance, you're paying for that death benefit. But you're going to get either fixed rates to cover that, or you're going to work with the market with a zero floor. They're averaging 5, 6, 7%. The last few years, they've capped out. We've been averaging 10 to 12% in these products. Pretty amazing stuff, and it grows compounding interest, by the way. Your gains lock in. On that first thing I showed you, I don't care to tell you, that's a 3-year and a 5-year annuity. Killing the banks. 2.25 or 2.85. They invest your money to make your money. That's a long, that's a 2-hour conversation.
Do they guarantee a certain percentage?
On the 3-year fixed annuity, right now it's 2.25%.
That's it?
Every year. Yeah. What's a 3-year CD? Yeah. Same thing. So it's going to go. Look, I always show people our fixed annuities. I'm not a huge fan of fixed annuities, I'll be honest with you. But a lot of people have a tremendous amount of money in the bank. And I'm like, there's a better alternative than the money just sitting in the bank. You make 2.25 tax deferred or 2.85 tax deferred. A lot better than the money just sitting there being lazy money. But on the other side, the second thing I talked about, guys, it's a life insurance program.
Right.
You get all this life insurance day one, and you get long-term care if you need it. If you never need it, the money just passes to your beneficiaries. Tax-free. All right? So just want to throw that out there real quick to get into the weeds of how these things work. That's why we have to sit down with you, have a conversation with you. But we're glad to do that. Good job.
Insurance companies, by the way, I don't know how many folks know this, have to have more in assets than they do in liabilities.
Yep.
The bank probably has, I think it's under 3 cents on the dollar in assets to liabilities. Insurance companies have to have $1.04 to every dollar that on their liabilities.
Right.
If they go,
So by nature, they're very conservative in terms of the investment.
that's correct.
That's correct.
So how do they return 5 to 7%?
So,
My question.
so I,
Again, we would be here for an hour to explain that question. That's why we have to have a conversation one-on-one.
There's a lot of top front-end commission.
No,
no.
no,
Which
you're,
you pay for, but it's paid in the life insurance policy, which you don't see, really.
no, you do see it, and we show it to you. And again, that would take an hour to explain that to you. So that's why you have to have one-on-one time. Yeah, but glad to show you those numbers and how it works.
$387,000. If you're in serious skilled nursing, it's costing you $10,000 a month. That's not even 4 years.
But if you don't have long-term care,
Do you know what the average long-term care stay is?
3.1 years.
4 years.
Oh, there you go. 3.1 years is the average.
It's just a way to leverage money that you would have only had $200,000 used for it. We're just leveraging it to give you a little bit more. If that's really a big concern for you, we
Then
would
we
look
put
at a
more money in
program that gives you a little bit more on long-term
Yep.
care. So, Guys, you have an evaluation form in front of you. If you would do me a huge favor and fill that out. The top section just has your personal information. The second section just says, hey, what are you interested in? If you'd like to meet with us, give us an idea of what we should be able to talk to you about, what we can have prepared for you. That third section there just says, hey, how do we do as speakers? I'd love to know. I like to build on that and try to become a little bit better speaker. You don't want to stand up here with somebody who's boring the entire time, so I try to build on that every time. On the very back page, if you turn it over, there's a couple questions on the back. It just says, hey, if you want a consultation, go ahead and check that box. We would love to come around to you, talk to you about a time and a date that works best for you. If you would not like one, just check no. We're not going to bug you to death about it. We appreciate you coming out, and I hope you have a good night. If you'll just take 2 minutes and fill those out, if you'll throw them up in the air whenever you're done, I'm going to do a quick drawing for a book, and then we'll have dinner in here.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Enjoy dinner.